Sharrocks. This is for my members post their best game thread, or any game will do, and I'll help them out and show them ways to improve their chess game. About to close this thread down, so get your games in before I get all the videos made. Okay, but we do have another thread where all the members are helping each other, and I try to help out when I can, but I can't go in there now until I get this thread cleaned up. Okay, couple things here. This was played at in live chess here at chess.com, but I don't know the time control. It wasn't given, so I'm assuming it was at least a 15-0 game. Not the best time control, where you can have time to think. I want to remind people of a thread we have in our group forums where you can arrange standard games with people, and you can get some really long games. See, a real good game of chess lasts about 4 hours, in some cases longer. And so you can set up a time with your opponent, like time controls like 90 minutes plus a 30-second increment, all kinds of possibilities. But I've got a whole bunch of people that have posted their information. You can choose among them for players near your rating and time zones and so forth. Usually on the weekend you can always catch somebody in another time zone, and then you can also post your information and people will be contacting you. So it's a great thread to hook up with people. Okay, a lot of times if you enter tournaments and various things, there's all kinds of tournaments on the league, or leagues and tournaments running online, and unfortunately they have a high rate of forfeits, and it's no fun to be planning a game and see a forfeit. But if you work one-on-one with a person, generally you can get an agreement when to play. Okay, so down to this game. This game backs up my contention that there are a lot of rating points to be had if you'll just make a few fundamental changes in your game. The average rating's around 1,400. That's about the mean. So when I say lower rated players, I'm not calling these players weak. I'm just saying they're lower rated players. And the lower rated players tend to make a lot of mistakes. And if we can get you to reduce your mistakes, as my video lesson 001 points out, you'll end up winning more games and your rating will go up, meaning you get to play higher rated players who play better chess, and you'll learn from playing them. So it's a progression thing. We want to get you guys out of this lower level here. And the first point I want to make is, and this is in this game, it's something I've noted in a lot of other videos I've made in the past. Not everyone can see all of my videos, but there's over 40 videos in this thread. In this opening, I've already covered it, and I've already covered exactly what to do in this opening. Had Black seen it, he would have done what I suggest. But Black didn't see it, or if he did, he didn't remember it. So it always pays to watch my videos. And there's so many things that I put in all these videos, and I see players keep making the same mistakes. And if they'd seen my videos, they would learn not to do them. Well, their loss is your gain if you watch my videos. There's plenty of useful information in all these. If you have time for them, this thread in particular is a gold mine for how to analyze a chess game and how to recognize simple mistakes and get good games early, so you're less likely to make mistakes. Okay, so let's have a look at the game. And so far, so good. It's now what we call a 4 knights defense. It's a rather quiet line. It can get exciting in a hurry if you're not careful, but generally they say it leads to drawish type positions. Of course, it's not drawn. But White commits a mistake here and allows something. There's a little thing called, its name on the internet and around the chess world is called the center fork trick. And I've covered this in a lot of videos. White's move bishop c4 was a mistake. White now has what we call a center fork trick. I'm sorry, Black has it. I've always mixed colors up. Okay, what Black should play here, it's real simple. You play this little sacrifice. Knight takes e4. Okay? Now what does this do? Okay, it's real simple. If White doesn't take back, he's going to be down a pawn. Okay? Now, so you take back with the knight, and now here's the fork. That's the trick. You're forking and regaining the piece. No matter what White does, Black's going to get his piece back. And look what Black's accomplished. He's got open diagonals for both his bishops. Let's get that arrow back there. See, that bishop's got this long diagonal, and this bishop's got this long diagonal. And the Black queen has some mobility. even though some of these squares are covered, Black's got room for his pieces to get out. And that's what you need. The number one thing I stress in an opening is development. You've got to get your pieces out and get them out quickly. Well, this little trick helps you do exactly that and get you a lot of scope for your pieces. And let's look at an alternative. You might say, well, White could do something different. Okay, one thing that it happens in other positions, there's other ways to have this center fork trick. One thing that White often does is play bishop takes f7 check. The purpose of this move is White realizes he's not going to be a piece ahead. Black's going to regain the piece. So White gives up a piece, and the idea being that White wants to try to attack the Black king, and it's exposed, and White's got some threats of putting either knight onto g5 with check, okay, and has the open up this diagonal for the queen to come out to f3 or to come out to h5. But Black does okay here. Black can hold this, not a problem. Essentially, what's eventually going to happen is Black does a maneuver we call castling by hand, and you might want to study this position. There's a lot of ways to do it. One of the simpler ways is to kick this knight right now. Now look at that center pawn control. Now the king parks himself back on g8. But eventually, what's going to happen is Black will complete his development. His back rank pieces will get developed. Eventually, this king will step back up to a square like g7, letting the rook out, and Black more or less achieves a castled position for his king, or gets him in the general vicinity of a castled king. And Black has one tremendous advantage here: the two bishops. And theoretically, if Black trades down to an ending with, say, bishop versus knight, theoretically Black will win this because the bishop beats the knight. But that's a whole nother story. But the center fork trick is a easy path to equality. And when you're Black, that's what you want. You want to get an equal position. So let's go back. Okay. Let's back it up and see what happened. So had Black seen my video, he would have known what to do. So what happens? Well, Black played bishop c5. Now, one drawback with playing symmetrical chess is you can only play it so long. Eventually your opponent plays a move that you can't duplicate. But in this case, and this is exactly what happened in the other video I made of the game in this same thread, I don't remember which one, you'll have to track it down, is now White has the opportunity to do the center fork trick. Here it is. Now White can play knight takes e5 with the same objective. If Black plays knight takes e5, White gets d5 in. If Black plays bishop takes f2 check, it's the same as I just shown. There's no need to go into all that analysis because I've just shown it. So both sides have missed a chance to do the center fork trick. And what can I say? Gotta watch my videos, guys. Okay. So what White does instead is White plays an attacking move and goes after f7. Now, I think this is a mistake in this position. Aside from the fact that White has missed knight takes e5, let me explain what's fundamentally wrong with this move. You're moving a piece twice in the opening before your development is complete. You're making a one-move threat. Now, if your opponent's an absolute beginner, your opponent might miss the fact that you're threatening to come in here with your knight and fork a couple of pieces. Well, if you get good at chess, you're not going to win games like this unless you're playing an absolute beginner. You're going to have to win games using your pieces. And when you go and you move your pieces twice in the opening, chances are you're not going to get as good a position as you might if you develop your pieces. Number one rule in chess: development. I say it every video. And I see so many videos where somebody leaves a piece or two undeveloped and goes off chasing some other idea, and all the opportunities disappear. If you develop, you'll be surprised at what happens. All the opportunities that open up for quick wins Instead of trying for a quick, tricky win where your opponent blunders, you can develop your pieces, get 2, 3, 4, 5 tempos ahead, and almost any move your opponent will make is a blunder. Believe me, trust me, this is quite true. So let's get back to this game and see what happens. But the problem with this move is black has a defense. Black can castle right now and safeguard everything. And black does that. That's a fine move. Okay, so you've got the threat here is alleviated, and it's a mistake for white to capture on that square and give up 2 minor pieces for the rook and pawn, because then black will have a field day with his extra minor pieces. 2 minor pieces are better than the rook, and the pawn gives approximate equal material compensation, but the extra piece will eventually be winning another pawn, and then suddenly the 2 pieces for the rook is a decisive advantage. So okay, so white in turn castles. Now here's a point where I think white made a mistake, or black makes a mistake. Now what he plays, and I'll say this, the move he plays, it's not a bad move. Okay, it's not a move that's going to cost black the game. It's not a losing move. But what it does is it gives black fewer options and than he has available. Okay, white stuck his knight out on g5. Where's it going? It's going nowhere. Okay, trust me, it's going nowhere. We're happy if it takes on f7. It's not threatening on h7 by any means. Okay, what's the number 1 rule? I've said it before, I'll say it again. What's the number 1 rule? Development. Development. What black does is plays pawn to h6, kicking a knight out of there that had no place to go. Okay? There was no need to chase that knight out. What there's a need to do here is look at these pieces on the queen side. Here, I'm highlighting them. They need to be developed. The quicker you get them out, the better the options are. The correct move in this position is simply to play d3. Okay? White has nothing here. And now this bishop is ready to come out. It's ready to come out into play. What black is ready to play queen e7 at some point, which is gets the queen off the back rank so that the rooks are connected. Number 1 rule, development. So ask yourself, and before I say ask yourself something, one drawback with h6 is that it slightly weakens the black kingside pawn structure. There are positions where having that pawn on h6 can be a liability. So ask yourself, the next time you make a move like this, h6 or h3 with the other side, ask yourself, what's better, to weaken my king position or to develop a piece? What's better? Even though you have a threat with h6, what's better? Well, the answer is development. It's going to be true 99.9% of the time to develop your pieces. The only exception would be is if h6 actually won a piece, but it doesn't. So the number 1 rule is development. d6 is the move. Now, how can I say that for sure? Okay, well, years of experience teach me this. And as I said, how can white get an attack here against a black's king with this knight? Well, let's logic it out. And we'll play a sample variation. It's what I call, my term is fantasy chess. It's just one fantasy line. In order for black to do or white to do anything with this knight, he's got to pile up on either f7 or h7. And both have problems. They're both well protected. So black either has to drive this knight away from from f6 to weaken h7, or has to drive the rook away from f8 to weaken f7. The alternative is maybe drive the king away from g8 so it no longer protects f7. Well, honestly, I don't see any way to drive that king over without making a sacrifice. So that leaves, let's talk about how does white drive this rook out of there? Well, I don't see any way. What can attack it? A knight can attack it from d7. That's covered. Can't do anything there. A knight can attack it from e6, but the pawn's covering that. The knight can attack it from g6, but then this pawn can take it, and it's going to take white a while to get a knight to g6. Now notice, just for the fun of it, if black plays h6, which he did, g6 is no longer protected because this pawn on f7 cannot recapture on g6 because of this pin. Okay? The defensive power of a pin piece is purely imaginary. So there's a reason right there we don't want to play h6. We do not want to make weakening moves. We want to make developing moves. And the question should be a no-brainer. Okay, so that leaves one other try for white, is to get rid of this knight on f6. How do we do that? Well, this bishop isn't going to get the job done. The only way I see to do it is to get this knight into d5. Okay? So, let's try it. If white puts this knight on d5 right now, that's a possibility. The point is, if the knight takes, this knight is no longer guarding h5, so the queen can come down here. Okay? So how does black answer this? Well, let's consider a possibility. One possibility is just to take this knight. Now white needs to take back with his pawn, but now there's some tactics, and this is kind of similar to something that comes up in the game, as you'll see when we get there. This knight is loose. Do we need to win it? Not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. White can retaliate on queen takes. If queen takes, white has a choice of d4, uncovering an attack on the queen, with a simultaneous threat on this bishop, as well as attacking this knight. Or he stays on the knight. Or white could just play pawn takes knight here. And I think on pawn takes, black just retreats his queen. And if white grabs this pawn, suddenly black has a very potent attack. Look at those bishops. They call these, one term is the Harwitz bishops. On a pair of adjacent diagonals, they're raking across the white position. White is threatened with mate in 1. Black has a great game here. And look, black has his queen and both his bishops developed. Black has his queen and both his bishops developed. White does not have his queen and his queen's bishop developed. So just on this line by itself, you can see that white can't yet set up any kind of attack against this knight on f6 with the idea of getting queen h5 in. So let's suppose white plays g3 or d3. Now, if black wants, well, black doesn't have to do this, but black can play bishop g4. That develops a piece and it attacks the queen. Okay? The queen's got to move, or you got to block it. Okay? You can't block it with f3 because that pawn's pinned. So let's suppose white in turn comes back knight f3. Now instead of having to spend a move with h6 to drive that knight back, we've driven the knight back by developing a piece. Do you see the difference in the game? This is why you want to develop. When you develop, good things happen. Now black's getting an advantage. Black's going to double up white's pawns. Boom, knight d4. Now this knight is pinned, and white is going to suffer some double pawns no matter how he slices it. And h3 would be a horrible mistake. Knight takes knight check, pawn takes, and now bishop takes pawn, winning a pawn. And look at the white king side. Looks like Swiss cheese. It's all open. So what I've just proved is that, and I'll show just a little bit more in this fantasy chess line. What I've just proved is white has absolutely nothing to show for his attempt to dislodge this knight in order to threaten a mate on h7. Okay? White had absolutely nothing. So It just basically proves that h6 is not the right move, and development suddenly gives you all kinds of chances. That was a possible the variation I just showed you was possible. Black doesn't get anything close to that in this game. Why? Because he didn't develop his pieces as fast as he could have. So h6 is a mistake, and you want to avoid that. Next time, develop. Always develop. Always, always, always. So now the knight comes back to f3. And now black makes a mistake. Now black's doing the same thing. There's no need for this. None whatsoever. There's no need to do this. You're moving a piece twice. These people are screaming. These pieces are screaming to get in the game. You've got to get them developed without question, without hesitation. You're in this position even after h6. Maybe you feel a little safer on the king side now. You ask yourself, how do I develop? How do I get my pieces out? I got to get them all out. Well, boom. D6. Now, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get that pin in anyway. Okay? You might. What if white plays d3? Let's just suppose he does. Boom. Bishop g4. And you're threatening knight d4. And doubling up the pawns. This is why, once again, why development is the rule. I think I've shown enough reasons why. And it's going to be like that in every game you play. Always, always, always focus on development. And I'm saying it over and over again because I want to drill it in your head. You have three moves to choose from. Pick a developing move. Don't pick a threat. Pick a developing move. So knight g4 is a mistake. We're not even threatening to play f5 because that pawn is pinned. See? So this move has no threat. Now white strikes in the center. Good move. However, he doesn't follow up correctly. We'll see. Knight takes. Now, what you need to do with black is grab the piece. Okay, just go ahead and grab it with your bishop. Because after bishop takes, for now you're a piece ahead. And I said earlier about a trick. Well, now it's with colors reversed. Here it is. d5, uncovering an attack on the queen and winning this bishop. And black's going to be a piece ahead with a winning game. That's what black missed. Okay? So black could have white could have played like a move like knight a4 here. Could have played a lot of different moves than what he did, but he gave you a piece and you didn't take it. Okay, so d6. At least the good thing about this move is it's thinking about development. Now you're trying to get these guys out. Okay, so white overprotects. Now it's good to get the queen out, but it's a little premature yet. Usually you get your queen out after you get your minor pieces out. Then you just maybe move the queen up one square simply to protect the rooks. It looks like you're eyeballing f2, but that's well protected. Okay, white reinforces d4 because it's under attack. And here we have a mistake coming up. Now you go and threaten mate. But the drawback with this is now white has a good move at his disposal. h3. Now the mate threat is stopped, and suddenly these two pieces are loose. You can't move them both. You can only move one. That means the other one is going to be lost. Who's talking to me? Somebody's sending me a message. I already talked to him. Well, I just have to wait. Okay. Making a video. So basically there's two pieces loose, and black grabs something for one of them, and there it goes. And now, because black has played a little too quickly, black now has a losing game. But this being low-rated chess, mistakes are going to fly. And here they come. They're coming up. Okay, so white should win this with careful play. But here, I think black made a bad move. You got to get developed. You know, if this bishop had been out earlier, like I said, you wouldn't have this problem. It's not too late to develop it. Bishop d7 avoids an exchange. It gets the rooks connected. You got to try something. Instead, a one-move attack just gives up a pawn. Okay, you can't afford just to hand material to your opponent. And there's a few more mistakes here. b6. Okay, now this opens up this diagonal. This rook gets in a little hot water soon. And there's several ways to win these, but anyway, win this game. But suddenly, black is getting back in the game. But not quite yet. I think bishop d5 is deadly here. I think black's in serious trouble. Bishop d5, we're on this rook, who can't get out of there because this bishop that never got developed is in the way. See, that's another reason you want development. You don't want to get a trapped man over there that never moved, right? You don't want that. Okay, so bishop d5. If you play knight takes, this just helps white tremendously. Look at f7. My goodness, you know, f7 can fall. We can play rook takes, threatening a killer discovered check. This is loose. This rook is loose. White is mopping up here, but white missed it. So you don't want to allow, you know, and this only got allowed because you didn't develop your pieces. Your game won't fall apart if you develop your pieces. Okay, when you don't develop, your game can fall apart with one little mistake. You know, poor development makes mistakes more costly. Okay, so anyway, white played knight f5, which basically just gives a free piece, and there it is. Now knight b7, queen b7, and now suddenly black's doing great. Bishop d5, knight d6. Okay, that's decent. It attacks the queen. Queen moves. Knight b5. But here, you missed another move. If you think development, you'll see it. Okay, what isn't developed here? The rook. We've been trying to get it out for a long time. Well, just go ahead. Develop it here. Okay, attacks the queen. Yeah, it drops this knight, but look at this. We get this. We get this piece back. Now black is a pawn ahead. Black is better developed. Look at poor white. He's the one with the pieces that aren't developed, and you are. So white wasn't developing his pieces either. Neither side was worried about completing their development. They were trying attacks with a smaller army. You got to get them all in the game. Black is doing terrific here. White really is in a lot of hot water. It's going to be hard for white to get out of this bottleneck. Look at this threat. Bishop to d3. We're threatening to put a rook on d8 and have doubled rooks on an open file. Since now black is developed, he's got options. Do you see why you want to develop your pieces? Because then they get options. Don't leave them at home. Get them out. Don't work. Do your attacking once you get your guys out. Because when they're out, trust me, more options will be there. Especially if you get a huge lead in development. Okay, so you missed rook d8, which you would think of immediately if you always say develop, develop, develop. Okay, at this rating level, you got to develop. You're going to win. You're going to go up so fast you won't know what hit you. Okay, so. But knight d4 isn't a bad move. It's just that, you know, you kind of got something hanging over here that you're not covering. Okay? And white plays this. Now look at that. A knight fork. I think there was better, but there's nothing wrong with that. You know, the better move is just play this and get it over with. Okay? get your development up. White's going to have trouble covering that bishop. Okay? I don't think he's going to... I think, well, you can play queen b7, but then you do your knight c2, and the bonus is you've got development. Okay? See? Okay, so anyway, knight c2. This is okay, though. Now white finally grabs that rook, and black grabs one in turn. And here, the simple move is to play knight c2. Okay? Knight c2 is going to win outright. Knight d3, he played knight d3, and you say that he timed out. Okay? But it's a little less clear here. White will save this bishop. It'll come back, say, to f3. You can win a pawn over there if you want. But a better move is just go back to the fork. Attack that rook. If white plays rook c1, knight takes e3. Now he needs to either take back or let you have the piece. And then you take on a8 next. Probably better to keep his pawn structure intact, but that's fine. We'll just put our knight on f5 and plan on sticking it on d4 next, and you're a whole piece up. So it would have been a little better finish. But knight d3, he timed out. But white's still capable of putting up some resistance here. But it's a little less clear than the line I had. But like, for instance, if you save this piece, I think white can, or black can get away with just snatching this pawn. But now, if white's smart, he'll get some development, get the rook into play. But it's strategically won for black. But there are a lot of ways to play this better, and next time I expect you will. You learn. There's a lot to apply here. Just go back over what I've said, watch it again if you have to, and your chess will improve. It's going to be simple for you to gain a lot just by developing. You'll gain a lot of points. Okay? I want to thank everyone for their time, and I look forward to making the next video. Take care.